welcome to the first video episode ever of the Famous Cat Chronicle podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Durkin, and I have a ghost story to tell you. I'm not sure where to start, so I will just start from the beginning. Today, I listened to the band The Loud Family in a live recording recorded in New York City in the year 2000 on their last tour on April 17th. Again, New York City, the venue was the Knitting Factory. You're all saying, okay, what's so important about that? I was at that show. I didn't know that I had this recording until about a week ago. And I don't know how to tell you this, so I'll just cut to the chase. Listening back to the first song and a half, and that's all that I've listened to as of the time of this recording, was truly like going back in time. It was so emotional, and I'll tell you why. I got into the band, The Loud Family, whose leader, Scott Miller, also was the leader of the band Game Theory, back in 1994. Scratch that. Back in 1996, I got into the band Loud Family, whose leader, Scott Miller, was also the leader of another great band, Game Theory. I got into them in 1996, right before this album came out. I was working at a record store, Coconuts, in Rogers Park, Illinois. Don't look for it. It's not there anymore. But the person who worked for this record company, Alias Records, said, we'd love to promote some of our product to retail. And which can we do? And I said, well, okay, send me what you got. Don't you have that one guy on your label who did a cover of Back of a Car? I said, Scott Miller, right? He's like, oh yeah, he's in the Loud Family. I'd love to send you some of their stuff. And so he sent me a stack of CDs that included the CD which has that song on it. It was on an EP of theirs called Slouching Towards Liverpool. So, sure enough, I listened to their cover of Back of a Car, liked it a lot, but the song after it just hooked me. It was recorded live at WNUR-FM in Evanston, Illinois, just up the street, essentially, from where the record store I was working at is. But the song, it's called Slit My Wrists, which sounds like such a dark, depressing, suicidal song. But then it was so beautiful at the same time. And I listened to the lyrics, and the person singing the song, assuming it was a character, sounded in the depths of despair. But at the same time, it was surrounded by this beauty. I mean, it's kind of one of those tricks that Richard Thompson has been able to pull off with a song such as End of the Rainbow and other songs that are just so dark lyrically, but they're so beautiful musically. It's an amazing trick when you can pull it off. And Scott Miller and the Loud Family pulled it off. So anyhow, I listened to this, fell in love, and I said, I have to find more. So sure enough, I went and found what is still my favorite album of all time. The Loud Family, Plants and Birds and Rocks and Things. In fact, I even have a rare vinyl copy of it, which I just feel like showing off because that's how I am. The Loud Family, Plants and Birds and Rocks and Things. If ever you get the chance to listen to this, you're going to love it. It's produced by Mitch Easter, the same guy from Let's Active, and produced REM and a whole bunch of other great bands. And it is just a phenomenal album. If you can find it on vinyl, more power to you. But these are rarer than hen's teeth, and it's hard to come by. But if you do get it on vinyl, I believe all copies are on beautiful red vinyl. Yep. Just got to brag a little bit. Anyhow, back to the story. So, as I get into him in a big way, I'm finding out, what else has he done? Oh, he was in Game Theory. But all that stuff is criminally out of print or hard to find. Well, they started reissuing it. But I came across a friend of mine who had a copy of one of the best Game Theory albums out there, which was Lolita Nation, their great double record masterpiece. And I listened to that, got into it. I bought what was available and accumulated the rest of it. But sure enough, later that year, Scott Miller and the Loud Family released Interbabe Concern, and they were touring behind it. They came to Chicago's venue, the Empty Bottle, and I was so impressed. And the concert was amazing, but I got there early because I needed to ask Scott a question about one of the lyrics on this album. On Idiot Son, there's a lyric that goes, "And I saw real estate that I would not call land." And I said, "Scott, I got to find out. That's an amazing image. What does it mean?" Sure enough, he explained it to me, and he said basically it's land that has been exhausted of all of its natural resources except for its real estate value. And the whole song, he said, was about ecology and being kind to the earth. And so I got to meet him, and he's such a wonderful guy. He autographed this CD for me as well. Excuse me. It's okay, it landed on carpeting. And I will show you that autograph. And just a wonderful, wonderful man. We talked for a long time. He was such an ebullient guy. And then I had a chance to see them when they released their 1998 album, Days for Days. Again, I saw them at the Empty Bottle. But here's another thing that was cool about that second Empty Bottle show. I was standing in front of Nina Gordon from Veruca Salt, who also happened to be a really big fan of Scott and had a chance to work with him while they were in Veruca Salt. And Scott Miller started singing a song from Game Theory called Like a Girl Jesus, which has always been one of my favorite songs. But then Nina Gordon started singing for the first line along with the same time Scott was. It was mind-blowing. Here's Scott Miller from the Loud Family and Nina Gordon from Veruca Salt kind of accidentally singing a duet. I mean, it was only for that one line, but whoa, mind-blowing. And this is while they were still on a major label and everything. It was just excellent, excellent stuff. So, come the year 2000, unfortunately, for as great of a band as they are, they're seeing diminishing returns, right? And so they release this album, Attractive Nuisance, and they tour behind it, and pretty much it was, I don't know if it was explicitly said, but it was pretty much kind of unspoken that it was the last tour that the band would do and that they were going to break up afterwards. And sure enough, their record company Alias went out of business not too long after that. And I had a chance to not only catch them in Chicago at the Empty Bottle, but also in New York City at the Knitting Factory. And it was a great both shows were great, and I had a chance to take lots of pictures of the Knitting Factory show and get autographs from Scott. And so I guess what I'm saying here is all of this means a lot to me. And then later this video came out, which was a compilation of different songs on the tour. And it's an excellent DVD, and it's hard to find. But sure enough, one of the songs in there on this video, at least one of the songs, was Where They Walk Over St. Therese. And I was watching it on the video, and I heard my own voice. I shouted out something, and I can hear my own voice. But I had, that was pretty much it. And while at the time that this was released, I asked Scott if I could do an email interview. And he acquiesced, and I asked him every single Game Theory and Loud Family question I ever had, and he answered them all patiently, and I wrote this incredibly long article for gloriousnoise.com. It's still up there. And he was really touched by it. I think he really enjoyed reading the article I wrote about him. And so years passed, and we figured, well, Scott's probably retired. He's gone back to working. He got married and had 2 wonderful kids. And then in 2006, he and the musician Anton Barbeau released this album. It's a duet album, Scott Miller and Anton Barbeau. And I still had his email contact and information. And I emailed him. I said, can I interview you a second time? And he said, sure, it was great. And wonderful, right? And then he wrote a great book called Music What Happened. And then, after years of only doing acoustic shows here and there in the San Francisco Bay Area where he called home, he died. In 2013, he died. So, I have never been more affected by any other musician's death than Scott Miller's. And I don't see that changing. It has taken me so long to normalize listening to his music again because I did know him. I mean, not as well as others, but I consider myself a very, very big fan of his, and his passing continues to haunt me. And only just recently did I finally want to find out whether or not I had certain rare recordings of his. Explicitly, the alternate learning songs. When Scott passed, a lot of us in the fan community went through whatever rare recordings we had of his, whether they're tapes, records, CDs, radio recordings. They were digitized and sort of put out in the open for people to get. They have since gone back underground. There's no longer this amazing store, but while they were able to be gotten, I downloaded them all and I put them in a folder and I kind of just put them there. I'm like, I might not be ready to listen to them now, but I want to have these for when I am ready to listen to them. And that finally happened just a couple weeks ago. I'm finally my emotional reaction to Scott's music is easier now to take. I'm able to separate the tragedy of his passing with the amazingness of his music. And then today, when I was going through the rare materials, I didn't realize I had a copy of the last Loud Family concert that I was ever at, the last time I had a chance to meet him in person. Why I chose to listen to it for the first time in the car escapes me. But I got about a song and a half through it, and I said, this is too emotional of an experience for me to do it just while I'm idly out driving errands. This is something where I need to sit down with a pair of headphones and really, really absorb it. And I know it's going to be emotional because I was at that show. There is no way that I can explain it other than listening to it. I wanted to see if the show was as great as I remember it. It was. I wanted to see if I could absorb any of my memories of that day by listening to this one fan's audio recording of that show. And I was. It transported me back to that moment. And it was exhilarating. It was bittersweet. It was amazing. And folks, it is the closest I have ever been to time travel. I've heard myself on concert recordings before. I was at both times that the band Big Star played in Chicago at the Cabaret Metro. The first one was bootlegged and it was put on this Italian manufactured CD called Pick Some Posies and Let's Play. It's a great, audience recording of that show. And there I am. You can hear me yapping and yapping between songs. Listening to that when I did, which was, maybe a year or two after the show, was, it was a great experience. It was, listen to me. But I didn't have any attached emotional tragedy to that. Alex Chilton was still alive at the time. Jody Stevens was a great guy, and I had a chance to speak with John and Ken, very, very loosely. I'm not claiming to be, close buddies with any of them, but the difference this time is Scott is gone. Scott's passing meant and continues to mean a lot to me, more than any other musician, and hearing an audio document of the show I was at, mind blown. Anyway, I just felt like sharing that for you. I hope this isn't too long and too boring, and I'm hoping that I can get some judicious editing in, but I just wanted to share with you how cosmic the experience was and how it all ties back to music, which is kind of the point of the podcast. Anyway, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and till then, this has been the Famous Cat Chronicle. See you next time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That one might be the keeper.